bothering me.
We're rolling.
Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center here at 502 North Ridgewood Road, South Orange, New Jersey. We will begin reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we had hoped and wished. Right now we recite the Heart Sutra, which you will find in the FAQ section underneath someplace. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not pure or impure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the Bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, so now let us recite 3 rosaries of Om Mani Padme Hum, and as we've been discussing, you can think of compassion, work at cultivating compassion, cultivating that wish to remove the suffering of others. Think about the meaning of the Om Mani Padme Hum. Om, the body, speech, and mind, our unenlightened body, speech, and mind, and the enlightened body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. Mani, the method aspects of our practice, the cultivation of love and compassion and patience and humility and perseverance and concentration, and then Padme, which represents the wisdom aspect of our practice, the cultivation of our realization of emptiness, and Hum, the union of this method and wisdom that brings about the purity of our body, speech, and mind, the aspects of Om, Auma. So think about these as you recite. We will do 3 rosaries. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So we then dedicate the merit, the virtue that we have accrued by reciting and thinking in this way to the removal of all suffering of all sentient beings. Okay, so we have been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And last night we had a discussion about what?
Went around the room. Discernment is part of wisdom.
We were discussing the fact that there are problems in the world that are man-made problems, human-made problems, and the discussion was how best to solve them, and whether some of the problems that are man-made are even solvable. On page 84, there is a statement: if human action can create these problems in the first place, then surely we humans must have the capacity as well as the responsibility to find their solutions. The only way we can put them right is by changing our outlook and our ways, and by taking action. So we were discussing how to take action, and we were also addressing something else that His Holiness states, which is, if we concentrate exclusively on our inner development, we discussed the validity of devoting oneself to one's inner practice, working at changing oneself, rather than going out and making changes in the world. And so the debate was whether mere work on oneself is valid, or whether one had a responsibility to work on the outside. So His Holiness makes one statement at the top of 85: when we do so, we will see that our own interests are best served by what is in the best interest of the wider human community. By contrast, if we concentrate exclusively on our inner development and neglect the wider problems of the world, or if, having recognized these, we are apathetic about trying to solve them, then we have overlooked something fundamental. Apathy, in my view, is itself a form of selfishness. So this was what we were ultimately talking about yesterday. The whole the line between I suppose that I would say that there could be a danger that we feel that mere let's say meditation or contemplation of some sort, that in itself will suffice. And I think that for one's practice to be so profound and so powerful that inner practice truly is the most effective way for us to have an effect on the world, then of course it's valid. But that's a very, very high level of practice, and I think it's important not to delude ourselves into thinking that we've attained that. We have to, as we work on ourselves, also work at being of service, being of help to others, and I think that His Holiness, by talking about apathy, which he says, in my view, is itself a form of selfishness, is warning us of the dangers of justifying mere self-work. For our approach to ethics to be truly meaningful, we must, of course, care about the world. This is what I mean by the principle of global responsibility, which is a key part of my approach to secular ethics. What do you have to say on this?
Well, you mentioned when you were explaining Om Mani Padme Hum, it's the Mani and the Padme, it's the method and the wisdom. It's like you cultivate the wisdom so that you can go out into the world and use the method. It's not just about the method to get yourself enlightened, it's the method to help others that gets you enlightened.
Yes, I mean, to be the devil's advocate, though one could devote oneself to the cultivation of the method aspects of practice in a cell in a cave.
But the way I look at the method is active, it's going out and helping others. It's using the compassion that wisdom teaches to get out there. And it's not necessarily, I have to devote my life to healthcare and working in a hospital. It can simply be
Brownies.
I'm brownies, right? It could be that simple. I'm going to donate something, or I'm quite simply just going to be nice to the person on the other end of the phone.
Yes, yes.
And you can't do that in a cave.
All right. You can't do that in a cave. Again, I'm going to, just for the sake of argument, as I said, for that practitioner who is really able to work at himself or herself in a way that is engaging in generosity, engaging in the thoughts of generosity, engaging in the thoughts of ethics, engaging in the true cultivation of himself or herself as a generous being, as an ethical being, as a patient being, as a
Effort.
a being who has the effort to pursue his or
So
her.
you're saying someone like His Holiness. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama is that type of practitioner who's so advanced, but he is out in the world helping others. He is out teaching. He is out raising money. He is doing lots of things to help others. So
And telling us to do so.
right, so if we look at him as, okay, this is the man that we agree is that level of practitioner. If he's out in the world, then so should we.
Yes. So keep on making brownies. And,
To the best,
sorry?
he's out in the world, he's fully accomplished many lives ago. So that's what he has to do. No more to learn. There's probably a point where you're starting to really advance and you must be in seclusion and advance, I'm thinking. In the meantime, the rest of us can do both. We can do our practice and the best we can and be nice to them. We also, since we're in a country where Buddhism is new, we have, if we are truly believers or something, if you want to call it that, we have an obligation to keep it going, to keep these monks and nuns alive, keep them well fed, keep the teachings alive, the main thing, because they'll disappear.
In Dharamsala, up above Dharamsala, are caves where meditators go to devote themselves to these very intense inner practices, and they've gotten to a point where they've given up interest in worldly matters, and they are devoting themselves to that inner practice and the taming of the mind to remain focused eventually on emptiness in order to bring about truly subtle and profound changes. And they do come down from the mountain twice a month to attend our monastic confession. And I remember once bumping into 3 of them.
They're
And
all
they,
ordained, always.
no, but
Most.
the ordained ones will.
Yeah.
Food is sent to them. However, they do, as I say, come down once a month, and they walk a long way down to the main temple in McLeod Ganj for this ceremony, and then they walk up again. And I bumped into these 3 as they were on their way back up to their meditation huts and caves up in the mountains. And there was the youngest of the 3 who had entered into meditation maybe 4 or 5 months earlier. And then there was the one who had been there for 2 years. And then there was the one who had been there for many years. They were sitting, taking a rest on their way back up. And I went and talked to them. And the one who had been there the least amount of time was quite chatty and happy to share what they were doing, and all that I'm telling you, how long each of them had been up there. And the one who had been there for 2 years, every once in a while would contribute a comment to the conversation. And the one who had been there for 8, 10 years, whatever it had been, never said a word. He sat there totally peacefully, waited for this chatter to end so that they could continue on their way. And it was very interesting to see these 3 levels of immersion in this life and practice. And so what was interesting was that it was 3 levels of what would you call it, like removal from the affairs of cyclic existence. And this was not, it's very important that when we remove ourselves, when we really step away from our preoccupation with the affairs of this life, of the affairs of cyclic existence, that we not do so in pursuit of our own peace of mind. We should work towards the cultivation of the compassion that makes our inner pursuit of benefit to all others. So that, as we were talking about earlier in this book, the motivation of compassion is important, and then we have to apply the scrutiny that establishes the best way to apply that compassion, to act upon that. The discernment, I think, is the word that's used here. And that discernment should evolve as we evolve, so that discernment can be very much a worldly discernment, getting out there and helping. And as we progress, it can be, the discernment can lead us to, should lead the meditator to meditate. That should be the result of implementing the motivation of compassion, the wish to remove the suffering of others.
They're under like a lama they can consult with, those debaters?
Not debaters, meditators.
Meditators.
I would think that the lead one, yes, they will
No, but
consult with lamas, but sometimes they are the lamas. If you've been
They're
meditating for
Yeah.
10 years in the mountains, but there was one meditator, Lobsang Tenzin, who had been a fighter in Tibet, and then he had come out of Tibet, and he went into the army, and he was part of the Tibetan troops who were part of the Indian army who were sent to fight during the Bangladesh war, and there was a monk from His Holiness's monastery, Namgyal Monastery, who was like the chaplain of the Tibetan division. And this chaplain inspired this Lobsang Tenzin. And he eventually left the army and became a monk and devoted himself to meditation. And he would seek the guidance of His Holiness and of Ling Rinpoche, the prior Ling Rinpoche. And he lived up in the mountains. And it's a nice story because there was a Dr. Benson at Harvard who wanted to experiment on meditators to measure the abilities that he had read about. And when he consulted His Holiness, apparently His Holiness said, well, yes, theoretically there are these accomplishments that meditators achieve, but there's no one I could actually point to and say actually possesses these. But when there is someone, I will send him to you. And this Lobsang Tenzin was sent to Cambridge to be tested at Harvard by Benson. And they did all these experiments on him. He had to show his ability to remain single-pointedly concentrated on one point. And this was, 40 years ago, something like that. And they had an old television set, and they had all sorts of squiggly things going on, and there was some point that he had to remain focused on. And then he had to, they took his robes off, and he had to dry sheets in a cold room by means of his ability to change his bodily temperature. And there were other experiments like this. And his comment, I happened to be present for an interview in which he was telling us about this. His comment was that Dr. Benson was doing all these experiments on him, but had no interest in what it was that he was meditating on in order to produce these extraordinary things. So, and he said, and it was quite powerful. He said, these are just the effects of what I was doing. They weren't interested in what I was doing. They were only interested in measuring these effects, the side effects. Anyway, yes, for those who are at that level, then the most effective, the most important, the most beneficial, generous thing that one can do is really devote oneself to one's inner practice. But for us to really help others in more practical ways is to not do so would be to be apathetic. Apathy is a form of selfishness. Okay, so the challenge of technological progress. So, technological progress is an interesting one because it is evident that technology has helped human beings in so many ways. It is, again, I heard that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in talking to Queen Elizabeth's mother, what was she called? Queen
Mother,
Mary?
yeah.
The Queen Mother.
Yeah.
Who had been alive for 100 years, and His Holiness said, "In your life, have you seen? Do you think that the situation of the world has gotten better or worse?" And she said, "Oh, better. The ability to help people, the quality of medicine, all these things have so benefited humankind. It is evident that the situation is better." However, technological progress has had an enormous toll on our environment, on all sorts of aspects of life, and even on our ability to concentrate. We all know from the extraordinary practicality that a cell phone provides, our peace of mind has been totally destroyed. And I think that this is a challenge. This is a challenge of technological progress, and it's a challenge that it's easy to blame the tool.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to assume the use of the word challenge in the challenge of technological progress is that we should take it as a challenge ourselves in the way we make use of technological progress. So, with the colossal scientific and technological advances, military, medical, and agricultural, of the past 2 centuries, humans now have unprecedented knowledge of and power over the world. Never before have we known so much or been in such a position of control over so many aspects of our planet. This situation raises a very serious concern. Is it possible that our responsibilities are now growing too fast for our natural capacity for moral discernment to keep pace? We'll start with that one. So I ask you, is it possible that our responsibilities are now growing too fast for our natural capacity for moral discernment to keep pace? And not just moral discernment, but for our ability to control to keep pace, to control these technological advancements. So is it possible that our responsibilities are growing too fast for our natural capacity for moral discernment? What do you think, Buddy? Buddy definitely has what's the problem?
But he has opinions.
We have no choice anyway, we have to adjust to it. It's here. You know, the question is, our responses are now growing too fast for our natural capacity of moral discernment to keep pace, but we have no choice. This technology and the way of doing things in business is thrust on us. You can't do certain things without relying on modern technology now. Healthcare, the whole bit. So we have to, especially harder for older person, to pick up the pace of that. And
Yes, we're having difficulty getting tickets to
Exactly.
attain the long life
No.
puja for His Holiness the
Go to
Dalai
your
Lama.
patient portal for your treatment, they want you to treat yourself now practically, things like that. Before you go to a doctor's appointment now, it's like a 2-page fill out, you just saw the guy 3 months ago, they want more update, it's overdone. We haven't adjusted to a humane way of using it yet. I don't know if the legislation has to be done or just,
But yet, we haven't achieved it yet.
yeah, we'll
This
have
is a
to.
question that's been asked by social commentators since humans have been asking questions. During the Industrial Revolution, the Luddites had enough. They want to put an end to it. But that's part of human progress. In Lord Buddha's time, there wasn't a lot of progress. But there also was a lot of abject poverty. So as things get better, we have to learn how to adjust. Just in my lifetime, we've gone from a phone connected to a wall to a phone that lets me see on the other side of the world and have a conversation with someone on the other side of the world. And
That's amazing.
it's not good or bad, it's how we use it.
Same thing with democracy as a tool, we have to learn how to use it.
Right.
Buddha's time, everything was a kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
There were no questions were asked, everybody
Right.
knew their spot. And everybody suffered. You're in the wrong category. So, the weapon part of technology I don't like, it's overdone. You can't now fight without hurting innocent people. Everything is mass bombardment and stuff. Sad.
When I joined the monastery, my fellow monks who had all recently arrived from Tibet didn't really have books, and we got a little money so that we could provide each monk with the book that he was studying. But the idea of having more books, I suggested we have a library where we could have a few books that people could consult and was able to find the funds to buy books, and it was an innovation. It didn't exist. It wasn't something.
At Rato,
Yeah.
the bigger place.
The bigger place, a library, was really a place where they published books that you then could buy. But if you had no money, you couldn't buy them.
Right.
And today, everyone has an iPad or some kind of a tablet and has access to all books. And when I was discussing this with a fellow monk, saying how extraordinary it is, we no longer need libraries, he said, yes, but no one reads anymore. And it's here with all this access, the time, the focus, the stillness necessary to actually sit and read, with all this accessibility, is not there. Again,
That's a shame.
but all of this is a shame. I mean, we're talking about
Samsara, I know, yeah. But there are still classes, there are lectures, there are exams.
Of course, yes,
So they
yes,
have to
and you
learn
have to
certain
memorize,
things,
and you
however
have
they
to.
do it.
But I think I wonder what it's like in universities today, in schools today. Do you have children? Do you have children? So what how is there? I mean, the three of us don't. So we have to turn to you and ask, do young people read? Do they, when they study, are they really absorbing information that they have read, and how does it work?
My children are in their 40s, but
Well, they have children, I suppose.
Yeah, I have a 6-year-old. They read, and
That's wonderful. Good.
I think there is a difference in how the younger generation reads now, and it's a reading for quick comprehension. In other words, because I have a phone, if I am reading, well, if I'm reading for school, I'm reading on my phone or my iPad, and I'm
Right.
reading and digesting it, knowing that I have to take a test.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our brains are changing from the I memorize a book so that I can teach it or pass it on to someone else to it's in a different area of my brain because I don't really need to know it long term because I can always look it up. I've got the book here, I can always do a search for it and find it later. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Different area of the brain, that's it. You have
It's
to
just
adjust
a
to
different
that.
way of working, you know, like, can people remember long books? There used to be bards that told stories, and now,
Yeah, before literacy.
and even in the acting professions, you don't have to memorize the whole script. You just have to brush up on it before you shoot it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a difference too.
Very big difference.
It's just how we've changed from the theater to a TV show or a movie. And it's not bad, it's just a lot different. And finding that time to devote to reading is a challenge.
So, modern technology, the opportunities that it provides, has these major challenges that we do have to navigate, that we do have to. And so, again, if we bring it back to the application of the motivation of compassion and the discernment to apply, here, as we're working on ourselves and navigating modern technology, the environment, the place where we are doing this is getting more challenging. It provides opportunities, it provides technical advantages, but it also provides the challenges of
Adjustment, one of them.
yes, but the need to remain to be disciplined, the need to avoid the
The distractions of the phone, that's where you really need.
yeah.
But is it more challenging than when monks didn't even have the books to read and had to rely on someone else having memorized it that they maybe could ask questions of? I think it's as challenging. The
No.
challenges are different, but I don't necessarily think the challenges are greater now.
Or maybe I we face challenges today and they faced different challenges then. That is true. But the ability to arrive at a deep realization of the subject matter is, I believe, more difficult today. I think that today's challenges, just the phone. I had to get up when I was abbot in front of all our monks and say, take my phone out and say, I have a challenge with this too. We all have this challenge. And it is for each of us to work on ourselves and help each other too to remain focused on your studies, on your practice, within the the reality of this challenge. So yes, I think it's more challenging.
Is it more challenging in terms of one-pointedness of those monks that want to develop calm abiding? Their minds are not probably a little more disrupted than in the days of old, having this quick flesh, Maybe it's harder. Is there anyone charting all this?
Well,
I guess not.
it's not that we're charting. I'm sure that I don't know. Most recently, we had pretty strict rules in terms of who could own phones and those kind of things to really try to protect. We had one abbot who had come from abroad to assume the abbotship of one of the monasteries. And as he was listening to this discussion on cell phones, said, but I've heard that when you put these rules on phones, we were talking about limiting everyone to what they call in Tibetan do. Do means stone, and it's a cell phone that doesn't have any ability other than to be a phone. They call those stones.
I see, yeah.
And
like a dog terminal in the old days.
and he was saying, if you make the new rule that one can only have a stone phone, an old-fashioned phone, he said, I heard that increased the number of phones because everyone kept his smartphone hidden and then walked around with the big phone. So instead of actually curbing the use of phones, it was increasing. It's a challenge. It's a universal challenge.
How much media are they allowed? Different, news programs or TV or soccer games or whatever?
Well, we used to have a big screen, and every Monday evening they would project some DVD that we received from Dharamsala with the news of the week. And it was the Voice of America Tibetan unit or Radio Free Asia Tibetan unit.
That's still
that
around. Yes.
made these things.
Now it's on the internet. Yeah.
And they would all, and Ratu had this projector television thing. And so all the monks of Drepung would come because they knew that we would set it up in the debating court. And so there was plenty of room for everyone, and they would come with their pillows and
Yes,
to
social
sit and
events.
watch. Yeah, Monday is our holiday.
Well, Monday's the day off, I see.
But now that everyone has a phone, that's finished. And Monday would be the day that anyone would be allowed to use their phones because it's the holiday. So these so what we were talking about was whether these technological changes or this technological evolution has diminished the quality of education and practice, and I'm permitting myself to say I think it has.
Yeah, and the other thing is social interaction. People don't do face-to-face as much anymore. It's all text this, text back. Even boys and girls or whatever, love affairs take place digitally. But there's something more when you're with a person and you're in the moment co-creating it without the distance of a phone. I wonder what effect that's having. I'm sure somebody's got a grant to study all of this. There's probably floods of money. But who knows?
Tony, they're saying the younger generation doesn't know how to have a conversation with somebody. That's
What? What do they say? Oh, what? Yeah, no, that's right. And they don't know, they don't guess little signs that the person's getting annoyed or maybe you overstepped. When you said something, they don't notice the change in the eye, I'm sure that, I don't have time to delve into all these things, they're around them, but it's a big thing. And language is less flowing, it's more crack, crack, like a Morse code now, practically. With all kinds of acronyms now, nobody says hello, rolling on the floor, LOL, crap. Yeah. In the Army, we had a lot of acronyms, right? Besides FTA, but anyway.
What's thanks? There's an abbreviation for thanks. People are typing T.
HX.
Yeah, thanks, yes.
Just TX, I think, 2 letters. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
just
what
TX.
is that? It means thanks.
And Carol uses 2 punctuation marks to indicate smile. Will you stop, for goodness sake? Really? Or just call me up and tell me, that was funny, that's all.
No, one doesn't call anymore.
I know, no one calls anymore.
You have to
Except
make
you,
an
you
appointment.
call and you're very good at it, but,
You have to make an appointment to call.
yeah. Well, last night you did all your business digitally with the other side. All right, that's business. No, but business is one thing with the dates and times that have to be, set in stone. Oh, I thought you said this. Fine, that's very good.
So,
There's less work.
I don't think that this conversation is a waste of time. On the contrary, I think that our awareness of these things, we're all aware of these things. We're all aware of the challenges. But if such conversations can help us develop that little muscle that keeps us from indulging in the pitfalls or in the deviations, and keeps us focused, just that little effort. I think in spiritual terms, any effort we make to work on ourselves in a beneficial way is good. Is it possible that our responsibilities are now growing too fast for our natural capacity for moral discernment to keep pace? Our responsibilities, I'm going to go back a little bit. With the colossal scientific and technological advances, military, medical, and agricultural, of the past 2 centuries, humans now have unprecedented knowledge of and power over the world. Never before have we known so much or been in such a position of control over so many aspects of our planet. So this is a different sort of moral quandary. We now have control over more aspects of the planet than ever before. This situation raises very serious concerns. Is it possible that our responsibilities are growing too fast for our natural capacity for moral discernment, or even for our natural capacity for control over it? It's not just moral discernment, it's our ability to control the technology that is growing so quickly. Can we trust ourselves with the power that science and technology have brought us? So these are
That's a big point.
major moral challenges. While our brains have not changed appreciably in the past 5,000 years, the world around us has changed to an extraordinary degree. So this is what do you think?
He's setting the table, and the next few lines, he lets us know that he remains optimistic.
I think it's quite overwhelming. To digest all the information and then to feel some sort of compassion for each individual situation is really overwhelming. I don't think I certainly can't do it. That's just a start of what I was thinking. People can get jaded that way. They don't. It's kind of all oh, okay, this person died, that person, okay, there's a war here, and this person got killed, okay, so you sort of become numb to everything.
Information
If you
overload,
used to-
yeah.
It's exactly, information
Yeah.
overload, yeah.
And not
And
knowing what
it's
to
not so
do.
personal
So what do you do?
anymore.
You turn off.
Yeah, it's just, oh, okay. It can really cause, I think, some emotional damage to people.
Escapism is probably a bigger thing now than it was.
I think escapism has probably always been there in some. So despite today's global challenges, I remain broadly optimistic. Time and again, we humans have risen to the challenges we have faced. We have successfully navigated any transitions in the course of our evolution from communities of hunter-gatherers to high-tech urban societies. This in itself is a powerful testimony to our resilience and resourcefulness as social and moral creatures. In fact, despite all the wars, disasters, and diseases we have encountered, the human race not only survives but thrives. Far from destroying ourselves, we have in fact created an opposite problem, the human population rising at an unprecedented and alarming rate. So that's an optimistic take on our situation, and it's true that we do have an ability to make it work, to survive, to I think that we live in a very, very comfortable we have great opportunity, we have great comfort, we have leisure, but human beings, even those who are in terrible situations, have a capacity to make it work. I think that that's a sort of natural, instinctual ability that we have. I'm not saying that people can always avoid the catastrophes and the terrible situations in the world, but they adapt to the degree that they're able to in whatever situation they can. It is the instinctual way of coping that is extraordinary, and that is I don't want to have that in any way sound as if I'm suggesting that forgives or somehow excuses the monstrous situations that are imposed on people by war, by sort of terrible calamities, either human provoked or made or natural. But the victims of these things, as they confront tragedy, as they confront hardship, as they confront these things, have an extraordinary ability to full effort is put into making it work as well as possible.
That's true, because a good book on this topic I read many years ago was written by a man who survived the concentration camp, Viktor Frankl. Familiar with the book Man's Search for Meaning. And he goes through the mental machinations he went through to cope with this. It was like Auschwitz, one of the bigger ones, Dachau, I don't know. It's been a while since I read it. I still have the book. But that's proof, yes. And then the story of the monk who told His Holiness when he was in jail being beaten, what was your big fear? He said, I was afraid I would lose my patience towards those harming me.
My compassion.
My compassion, yes. Not patience, compassion for those harming. I mean, what an evolutionary achievement that is.
So His Holiness addresses this. Our success.
That fellow,
yeah. Our success as a species has been made possible by our ability, particularly when our vital interests are threatened, to cooperate. And at the very heart of cooperation is the principle of taking into account the interests and welfare of others. I'm therefore confident that we humans will once again find a way through cooperation to overcome our current ecological and technological challenges. But there can be no room for complacency.
Well, he's setting an accurate view of the world, technological problem and ecological challenge. He's using the word challenge, which I like.
But here it was apathy, or was it, apathy, and here it's complacency. And
He says challenge to sort of rally the troops. I don't know. Avanti.
well, as we discuss here, coming together to think about these things, what's brought us to a Buddhist center, what's brought us to a spiritual search is a recognition of a responsibility to, I don't know if it's a recognition of a responsibility or whether it's an inner search for something deeper or whatever it is.
All of the above, I think.
But to view the way of dealing with our search in a practical, simple way is what His Holiness is addressing here. It's basic, it's straightforward, it's the need to work on ourselves, to work at cultivating that fundamental motivation and work at deepening the discernment necessary to make that motivation truly beneficial, as beneficial as possible given our limitations, our personal limitations. So, on that note, I think we will finish for the evening.
Any names, Darren?
No.
Not as popular anymore. Our obituary column is not being filled.
Pat Bell.
Pat Bell?
Pat Bell. Patricia Bell.
So we've been asked to pray for Pat Bell when we recite the Sutra of the Election of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate
To the Omniscient One.
Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection,
He dwells in the
Buddha, where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavata. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is freed from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey.
As for the Sangha
Of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously, they are worthy of veneration with joined palms, they are worthy of receiving prostration, they are a field of glorious merit, they are completely capable of receiving all gifts, they are an object of generosity, they are a great object of complete generosity, the protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. Now let's read the prayer for a swift return of Ratu Kyonglar Rinpoche. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron rose, Guru Lobsang Tomwang Tojechang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord with speech of the victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclically existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limit of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly in an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Tenpe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moon-like face. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We shall meet again next Tuesday in New York City at 273 Bowery in the University
Settlement.
Settlement Center.